Council, November 26, 2018. Approval of the agenda. The November 26, 2018 regular meeting agenda be adopted as presented. So, Councillor Stewart and Councillor Smith. I'm still wrestling with that, on the two of you. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Carried. The minutes of the regular council meeting held November the 13th be adopted. Councillor Erickson, Councillor Smith, Senior Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Carried. Tonight we have some, one more? Yes, thank you. The minutes of the regular council meeting held November 13th be adopted. You did that one. Which one did I miss? 8. Oh, let's back up then. All right. Let's try again on that one. So the minutes of the inaugural meeting council held November the 5th, 2018 be adopted. So Councillor Medlock, Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Carried. Opposed? All screwed up. There we go. All right, I'd like to start off for a presentation of some recognition tonight for some of the for the mayor and the council that have left us. Councillor Kropp is not available to attend tonight, but I'd like to start with Mr. Victor. Do you come up, please, vote? First of all, congratulations on all the service to the community. We do appreciate it. You did it in several different forms. He was a trustee, a councillor, and a mayor, and has definitely left an imprint on our community. My first term as a councillor, Wilfried was my mayor. He was very patient. And he told me the municipal government works very slowly. You need to be patient, you need to be persistent, but eventually things will move forward. And I've always appreciated that. Another thing he told me was to, I was going to, well, I better not say that.
Come on, go for it.
I'll leave the rest alone. I just wanted to remind you that I did appreciate your patience with me in my especially the first year. It was a huge learning curve, and I won't forget the advice you gave me, and I will take that advice to the table now that I'm there. So thank you very much.
Well, I wish you well on your term.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You want to speak to anybody, or?
No, I just wanted to wish new council well, and the neat part is, obviously as outgoing mayor, I had concerns that maybe plans would take a different turn, but everything that council and our new mayor, Mayor Robb, has identified, I think there's a certain cruise control element for what council has already started. The previous council, you know, the Richmond Hill pathway, the continual focus on infrastructure upgrades, so on and so forth. I think we have a solid leadership team in place, and the good news is now my evenings are free, so that's unanticipated freeness, but it's something I actually already welcome, and I'm only 47, so you know I haven't thrown lawn signs away, so we might be good for used them 5 times already. So
I'm not surprised you said that.
I'm predictable anyway, so
thanks again.
And all the best to everyone.
Come on up, Gerry. The next person I'd like to recognize is Councillor Gerry Dyble, who also has left us this term. Gerry was on council with me on my last term. Wilfried on the first and Gerry on the last. What I remember about Gerry and advice that she was giving us as councillors was be prepared. And she was always prepared. And she needed more information. She wasn't afraid to ask the difficult questions. And I always thought that was very important because she came prepared and you asked tough questions. That's always good. The second part of that was you always asked us to be, how will this decision affect the vulnerable in our community? And that's another question we all need to remember when we're at this table, because it's very important. And I appreciate your history that you gave me on some of the social programs in the community. It brought me up to speed at council and since I became mayor, so I appreciate your time. So I hope you enjoy your time away from council. You're already smiling, really.
Going to Cancun in a week.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you won't be offended if we leave?
Absolutely not.
Actually, I'd probably be offended if we stay.
Stay for one more. Sarah, please come up. Sarah Grow. We're also celebrating the Lions Club's 75th anniversary. And Sarah, congratulations, is the first female president of the Lions Club.
Hey.
Absolutely. Do that again. Looking at the executive, the next couple of years, it's going to be run by women. Is that true?
Pretty much.
I think that's true that I'm aware of. So I really noticed the last couple of years with the profile of the Lions Club in the community is really ramped up. It's always been there. It's always been at all the events, setting up, tearing down, running concession stands. And a lot of it behind the scenes, they just do their thing. And I think it's really good now that you guys are up front and out in the community even more than ever than before. It's really important for our community. So once again, congratulations on your 75th anniversary. And I look forward to many more years of community service from the Lions Club.
We'll be there.
All right. Back to business. Report dated November 21st, 2018 from the CAO, the Tourism Marketing, the Municipal Regional District Tax, the MRDT, letter of support. Mr. Fordolowski, do you want to comment on this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have a quite substantial package put into the agenda, which gives you and members of the public detailed information about the Municipal Regional District Tax, or the MRDT initiative within the District of Hope. In the gallery and willing to answer some questions, we have Suzanne Denbach from Cadence Strategies, a consultant that worked with Advantage Hope this time around in trying to achieve the threshold required to establish an MRDT. In the report, you'll have seen that this initiative was triggered earlier, and in fact, you, Mr. Mayor, I think were involved certainly earlier on in the days, and Scott Medlock, Councilor Medlock, in the Advantage Hope days when it was young and fresh. It's still fresh, but it's not quite so young. At that time, they were unfortunately unsuccessful. They reinvigorated the process, and I believe it has every chance of being successful because they did achieve now the required number of signatures of approval or endorsement from more than 50% of the owners of the hotel and motel rooms in the district, which control more than 50% of the individual rooms within the district. So that is, I'd say that's the biggest bar required to get this thing going. The MRDT, just for those that aren't aware, would be established at a 2% room tax collected by the hoteliers within the district, and largely paid not by district citizens, but clearly those who pass through. And it's a marginal rate. We are, if not the only, one of the only municipalities in the district, or sorry, the Fraser Valley, that don't have this tax. So I think from an economic point of view, whether or not someone would stop and hope because they would consider a 2% surtax, you know, it'd be kind of rare. I think I'll push on to Merritt. Avoid 2%, but Merritt actually has the 2% anyway. So a lot of great and hard work has gone into this. And this MRDT would be taken and collected by the hoteliers, and all of it would be used to market tourism opportunities within the District of Hope. And that's part of being a destination market organization that Advantage Hope is aspiring to be on behalf of the district. And these funds would be substantial, although we don't have an estimate of how much they would be. But you were provided with figures for Chilliwack, Abbotsford, and Squamish. So for example, Chilliwack has a tourism budget of $770,000 per year, of which the MRDT provides $275,000 worth. For Abbotsford, tourism has a $500,000 budget, and their MRDT provides 50% of that. And for Squamish, it's 50% again of a $280,000 budget. Those are monies we're currently foregoing, and they can clearly adhere to be used. So the report then speaks to the mayor sending a letter of support that's required as part of the process. And I believe you've read the resolution, Your Worship, and myself, Patrick Earl, or Suzanne Denbach are here to answer any questions for you should you have any.
Any questions, Council? So, excuse me. Thank you again, Mr. Fortolowski, for getting us across the finish line on this. You were a big help at the last minute. We're on a tight deadline, and I'm glad that we're moving forward. As you said, Councillor Medlock and I started, and this is a good example for Mr. Victor for being patient. We started in 2011 on this, and it's just coming to fruition now, so it takes a while on some of these issues. So I need a motion, please, that Council endorse the mayor sending the required letter of support to Advantage Hope in order that they can continue the process of establishing an MRDT to better market tourism in Hope. Councillor Smith, Councillor Erickson. Excuse me. All those in favor? Opposed? Do you want to comment on that?
I just have a question, if we could change the date on the letter from November 25th.
We noticed that.
Yeah.
So we'll have that corrected clearly before you sign.
So would that change everything?
All right, Gerry, thank you. Report dated November 21st from the Director of Operations for Reinvesting in Canada Infrastructure Program, the Community Culture and Recreation Grant, the Richmond Hill Multi-Use Pathway. Mr. Fortolowski, please.
Related to the routine. Mr. Mayor, Council, this topic was broached last year, and there was talk of perhaps paring the program down or trying to compartmentalize the project, phase it, what have you. Staff, we have gone back. We've taken a look at the possibilities for that, the desirability of it, the feasibility of it, and actually the granting opportunities that could be applied to pay for it. And as the Director of Operations, Kevin Dicken, will speak to, we have identified the granting opportunity, and in fact, in our opinion, and as per our advice, we believe that we should move forward to apply for a grant for the entire project as opposed to a phase. The money's there at affordable rates, and it avoids long-term headache and friction if you try to do this phase. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to pass the mic on to my colleague, who could perhaps give some greater detail to you, and then we can answer your questions.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council. So before you is the report that Mr. Fortolowski spoke to. The purpose of the report is to seek council support for application to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. We've been working with our engineering consultant, Kropp, to do the preliminary design and subsequent revision of the plan. The first rendition of the plan that we put before council last year involved going around the truck pullout on Richmond Hill. And feedback we received from council at that time was that maybe wasn't needed, and that, you know, pedestrians would likely take the path of least resistance, which is usually a straight line. And therefore we redesigned the pathway, as you can see, to go straight through. And just if you could scroll down, gives more detail. So the pathway essentially would begin at the where the Hope Lookout Trail is, and it would parallel Highway 1 to exit 170, and then there would be a crossing through the existing median islands at exit 170 to get to the west side of Flood Hope Road.
I'll be the
Yeah.
That's the crossing.
That's the exit 170 intersection, interchange with the highway. And the reason for the crossing, as opposed to staying on the east side, is that there's a significant rockfall hazard as you get about halfway up Richmond Hill, where we have had some recent activity. And so from the perspective of public safety, we decided that it would be better to have the pathway on the west side of the road. Unfortunately, to do that, it does involve a crossing there, but there is a traffic signal there currently, so you know, it would be a suitable, and is a suitable location for that. So the pathway basically consists of eliminating the lane on the road that is furthest to the west, moving the barriers over where they exist now, adding barriers where they don't, creating a 3-meter pathway to go up and over the hill. And just, if you can just scroll down one more time, please. So that's getting through the truck pullout area there. And then at the bottom, you can see it comes down along the west side past Hawking Road. And then to essentially where Beacon Road and Owl Street intersect, Flood Hope Road. There's also a discussion about proper lighting on the pathway. So this design does incorporate ornamental lighting every 50 meters, which is about a third of the cost of the project, is in the lighting alone. So that's the design that we have, and the total on this design is about 40,000 less than the original estimate of 840. So we're around the 800 mark on this design. We're able to eliminate a couple lights, I believe, and less pathway as a result of not going around the truck pullout. So that's where we're at with the design. Essentially, that's what it would look like. We need to maintain a 1.5 meter buffer between the fog line of the lane and the no posts, and then the 3-meter pathway. And that's 2 scenarios in different locations along the path. The one on the left-hand side is the section between the Lookout Trail and exit 170, where there's an existing path that would be removed and a 3-meter path installed in its place. So we've identified this grant that will, our portion of the funding would be 27 cents on the dollar. So it is a fairly good ratio that benefits the district in that way. You know, it is our recommendation, as Mr. Portalowski mentioned, to apply for a grant for the entire pathway. This particular project, it's tough to phase it because, I mean, you're not going to build a pathway and just end it. It defeats the purpose of creating that safe linkage between the old Hope Town site and the Silver Creek community. And so, as I mentioned off the get-go, we're seeking council support, and there's a recommendation there for your consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilor Erickson, for you.
At the end of Beacon Road, what happens to the path? It just stops there?
Yes.
At Beacon Road, just stops. And then is there a wide enough lane, like a bike lane, that bikes can still carry on through there?
We could fairly easily extend onto School Road,
Yeah, that's
because the shoulder there is level and what have you. With the original design, it was principally to get from A to B. So we could quite conceivably extend that farther.
And this would be all paved path?
Paved pathway, yes. Using existing pavement wherever possible, and then widening and adding pavement where there isn't.
So on the left-hand side of the road from the intersection of Hope, Princeton and number 1, that path along by the lookout, is that going to be upgraded and paved in that section too? Until
The existing path would be removed. It's a narrow, about 1.2 meter pathway. That's not quite high enough, it gets flooded out. So it would be removed, and a new subgrade put in, and a 3-meter paved pathway installed.
Councilor Smith.
Part of that is, that you just discussed there, is part of its highways, isn't it?
That part, yes, between exit 170 and the whole Lookout Trail.
Yeah.
Is highways, yes. We've had discussions with them, and they're on board with the concept.
Councilor Miller.
Thank you. Initially, I had a couple concerns that this was being brought forward because I thought it would be the exact same plan as before. So I'm happy to see that it's not exactly the same, that the truck pullout has been eliminated. I do wish the dollar figure was a lot lower, even though it is 27 cent dollars, it would sure be nice to spend even less. Our portion, if the overall project's 800, that's still a big chunk of change for us, at 27 cents even. One other concern or question perhaps, I guess, is this the same grant fund that we're making the application for Othello Road upgrades?
It's the same parent fund, different stream.
Yeah, different stream, I understand that. So is there any risk of not being able to get a $6 million grant on the other stream because we could be successful here?
Well, while we don't have the Othello Road application in front of you tonight, we have been advised that $6 million would be an unrealistic ask for that particular fund. So I will be bringing that forward to council, but we will not be going for the $6 million based on advice we got from the federal government.
Okay.
But there's no indication that applying for both is going to jeopardize either one.
Yeah, I don't know how that works exactly, just stand the reason for me that if there was only one fund, even though it's different streams, they may choose to say, well, you got that one, and a $6 million one, which I thought we were applying for. Yeah, okay, before we went, Mr. Kowalski has a question.
Your worship, in response to Councillor Medlock, they are from this, everything's essentially from the same pot of money. The different streams means that there are different criteria that will adjudicate whether or not an application is successful or not. So an big infrastructure pot could be subdivided into, say, for example, roads, buildings, hydro. They're all slightly separate, and normally when they consider each stream, they do it in isolation according to the criteria, as opposed to saying, well, how much is Abbotsford asking for in all of these from an aggregate perspective. And as Mr. Dickin mentioned, we have received some advice and some late breaking news, so we will be bringing to council some options for the Othello Road as far as a strategic approach to try to leverage as much granting as possible while achieving critical repairs as soon as possible.
Any other questions?
So I just want to say that I definitely do support this project. I mean, it was identified early on in our IOCP and age-friendly plan. We had lots of good discussion back in March when it came to community hall, and I think we were all in support of it. I just, I guess the original thought was that we could, I'm oversimplifying the project, but we could scribble some road lines, put up some barriers, and call it good. But obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, and the lighting aspect adds a lot more even then. So I guess the other way for me to look at this is that we'd be paying for some lighting, and we'd be getting a pathway for free from the granting agencies, right? So I guess that's a positive thing. So I guess I originally wasn't going to support this application, but I feel like that we probably should, because opportunities like this don't come up very often.
All right, thank you, Council. So I need a motion that Council support the District of Hope application to the Canada, British Columbia Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program for Community, Culture, and Recreation Stream for the Richmond Hill Multi-Use Pathway Project, excuse me, and that Council commit the District of Hope to contribute its share of the eligible and ineligible costs and overages of the project to be funded from the Future Expenditures Reserve. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Second by Councillor Erickson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Council. The next thing is report dated November 26, 2018 from the Chief Administrative Officer re the Hope Food and Agricultural Plant.
Mr. Mayor, Council, we've seen the presentation, a great presentation during Committee of the Whole, and I think we can all appreciate clearly the work that's been conducted and how it aligns with both the IOCP and the Strategic Economic Development Plan as they currently sit with the district. What we're recommending now and we're seeking from you is the endorsement that we go through the plan as a staff to clearly identify the areas and validate areas like the implementation plan, the resources required, and the steps to take. If you paid attention, I know you did, Goal 6, for example, I mean, they talked about resources required. So how much will it cost? At what stage? for what effect. We have to go through that again, we'll validate the plan, and then we'll come back. The good thing that we as a staff feel about the timing of this is that we can identify the low-hanging fruit, pardon the pun, and then we should be able to make budget recommendations to you in time for budget for 2019 in order to get the ball rolling on this.
Let's start there. That Mayor and Council endorse for further consideration and adoption, the Hope Food and Agricultural Plan.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And second, Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. At this point, I'd also like to thank all the people that participated in the program and all the volunteers, the staff from the different ministries. And at this time, I'd like to call up Stephanie Hooker, please.
I just have some thank you cards for the committee members here. So thank you very much for allowing us to recognize them in the council meeting. That's very kind of you because they were a committee for council. And so if you were on the committee, if you wouldn't mind just standing if you're on the committee or the resource panel, just so the community can see that that you're here tonight and support of the plan. And thank you for your efforts. I'm just going to hand out some little thank you gifts from the community, and I just wanted you to see your committee. So if you hadn't had a chance to meet them yet, there they are, and they did great work for our town. So.
Good job.
Could be seats.
Could be seats, yeah. Thank you again, Stephanie. We'll just continue on while you're doing that, if you don't mind. There's no committee reports. Move to Mayor and Council reports, starting with Councillor Tron tonight.
I've actually kept in close contact with Councillor Smith for future Chamber of Commerce meetings as well as library meetings, but at the moment I don't have anything to report. But yeah, from what I've understood from Councillor Smith, we are in the next couple of weeks planning to get together and discuss for the meetings with the Chamber.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor Rod. So I attended Michael Fraser Hope today at the golf course on November 14th, and it was discussing the future of healthcare and hope and surrounding area. So it was a group of elected officials from electoral area directors and mayors and other members of the community. There was an MLA there. And so we broke into small groups. The purpose of the get-together was to talk about the primary care network in our area and how to help people better access the support services that they need. So we talked about what do we see that is available currently and what are the needs that the community has talked to us about. How do they feel that their access to health care is going? One group was about cultural safety and humility. Another group was accessing the care that they need. And then the third was how is the messaging given out in the community? So how are people hearing about these services? So it was excellent. We came across some really good ideas. And they'll be holding another session on December the 6th at the golf course from 12:30 till 4. And anyone who would like to attend can go and give feedback, get information. You just need to RSVP prior to November 28th through pre-tour. There's an email address. I believe, did all the council receive it? I'm not sure. Okay, I'll forward the address for you guys if you want to attend. And it'll be a great afternoon. I really did enjoy my time there. Also attended the firefighters awards dinner, and I got to tell you, I haven't been in all the time that I've been in council this past term and this one, and I decided to go, and that was one wonderful evening, and congratulations, Councilor Miller, on your award.
Thank you. 2 years in a row, I got those awards.
I love it. Yeah, but it was truly a wonderful celebration and a great event, and I'm very, very glad that I was able to go to that. The Golden Agers had their meeting on the 20th, and they elected a new president. The new president is Eva Andrews, and we had a great discussion about the recycling program and how it rolls out and how it's affecting seniors with mobility challenges. Luckily, Mayor Rob was there, so at the point where it got us slightly uncomfortable, I deferred to the mayor. And so some of the things they identified about as we're rolling out the recycling program is difficulties getting a number of cans out to the curb. Some of the seniors are on oxygen tanks and cannot carry all of the oxygen tank and the recycling buckets and the garbage buckets, everything out to the curb. It's quite difficult for them. And so we talked about their needs and what their wants are. Hopefully one day in the near future we can have a type of committee of the whole where we can discuss where the future of our recycling program might be heading. And that led to actually running into Lydia Coop, who would love to give feedback on how she would like to see this program go forward as well, if that does take place. And finally, for the Golden Agers, they're having their Christmas dinner on December the 8th at the Eagles Hall, and tickets are available Monday to Friday at the Golden Agers Clubhouse. And that's all I have to report.
Thanks for your report. Councilor Smith?
Hi. Mayor and I attended a Chamber of Commerce meeting, trying to just reconnect and that with the new council and that, so look forward to it. Councilor Toronto will be coming to meetings with me. The mayor just came one time to get a feel of everything. But good about moving forward. Also, the mayor and I attended the 100th birthday of Mrs. Morrison. Very well attended. It was nice the Queen made an appearance, so she was quite impressed with that. The 6th Avenue across from the CN Bear, communities in Bloom are working on doing the bank there and that, so we work on most of our project. We work with Kevin and that to make sure we're all in line with the district and everything we do to work together. And also, so remember that December the 8th is Ho Ho Hope Day, when the business will stay open late. So don't forget that. We'd like everybody to come out and support everybody locally. And that's about it.
Councilor Miller?
Thank you. I guess I have a bit of things to report from our last Advantage Hope meeting, which was sort of a mid-month meeting due to low quorum at the previous meeting. So we talked about Advantage Hope's customer service training program that is sort of their program, and they've worked a lot with Free Reign and some other businesses to provide training. And they also had Shannon Jones is still here. She did the ambassador training with the Read Write Society. I think it was last Friday. So there's a whole another team of ambassadors out there cheering on Hope and being good to the visitors that come through the community. So excellent, thank you for providing that training, and they hope to do another session in the evening so that folks that work can get to it. So I think that'll be good for us. The visitor center is now the stop for the e-bus that's coming through town, which is like is it Kelowna to Vancouver, Patrick?
Kelowna and Kamloops, right?
We're talking about a merit to Hope as well. So it's not a depot. They don't sell tickets there. Everything's done online, but it is a place to stop, and the visitors do come into the center and get information, and they can be directed to different places in Hope while they're waiting for the bus. So that's an excellent thing. It's a good place to be stopping. I think it's better than previous locations. So Shannon Jones over there, she's now also the co-chair of Advantage Hope. It was Anna Gladue and Gina Bennett, and Gina was also the secretary. So they're letting Gina focus on her secretary duties, and Shannon will be co-chairing with Anna Gladue. So that's another good change, very positive. Suzanne's contract with Cadence Strategies was renewed to deal with the MRDT, to bring us into the next stage there. And the strategic planning session will most likely be in January, because this time of year sure gets busy trying to get a board of people together to have strategic planning session is pretty tough when it gets down into end of November, December. So that'll be moved to January. And that's all I have to report, other than I won the award at the fire department.
I wasn't gonna bring it up.
I wasn't either.
Sorry.
It's okay, I'm proud.
Couldn't pass it on.
It's a wonderful trophy.
Councillor
So I missed the last council meeting, but I had the opportunity to spend about 10 or 12 days down in Mexico. And as I was flying from Vancouver to Mexico over California, I noticed a huge, massive wall of smoke. And as I was thinking about that's that big campfire, the fire in California that burnt hundreds of thousands of homes, my mind automatically went to the Rotary Nature Trails. And if you've ever walked the nature trails, it is quite a jumble of debris in there. And I just think the district should really take some serious action, because if a fire started in there, there's no hydrants, homes are right there, we could have a similar disaster. And when we were at BC Union Base of Municipalities, we went to a couple meetings, and they were talking about the municipalities taking care of the bush and the debris around the district. And I think this is a key area for our town. We should be really, really seriously looking at that area. And another one is the back of the golf course. If that pile started on fire, we couldn't even get access to it, Thacker Mountain would be gone. And all the homes. So I'm just thinking, it just actually put shivers down, and when you saw that massive plume of smoke it was just for miles, plume of smoke coming up off the land. And so I thought, I'm going to bring it up to council and see if we can have some type of investigation, see if we can clean up the nature trails, at least take down all the underbrush and clean it up and burn it now, or get rid of it now while the weather's wet, instead of thinking about doing it when we actually have a fire going there. It would be disastrous if we lost all those homes. So I just think we should talk about it and do some implementation. When we at UBCM, they were talking about Logan Lake and how Logan Lake has cleared all the property around that little town.
Fire smart.
Yeah, fire smart, that's right. And I think we should be thinking about it here. If it starts, you guys, especially in July and August when we have that real dry weather, it will go so fast and we could get not going. That's all I have to comment to.
Thank you. I attended my first Advantage Hope meeting on November 14th. It's a group that's got lots going on. I always knew they did because Councilor Medlock always reported back how much was going on. So it's neat seeing how their meetings work and how much they got going on. Another thing I just got told tonight, I'm going to use it, Patrick. The South Coast Women's Hockey League provincials are going to be held from March 28th to the 31st in town here. It's about over 240 players. They'll be staying in town. There's going to be 6 games over the weekend, so the arena should be busy. I think that's awesome that they're doing that to host this because as a hockey player, we have some of the best ice in British Columbia to use. So I think it's going to be awesome that they'll come out, and I think they'll might want to come back for more years after this. So another thing too is community with this new recycling program coming in. Been asked lots where they can find some more information for the glass recycling that's not available now, and what can they do with their old blue bags that they have lots of. Can they take them somewhere to a depot and take them to the landfill or whatnot there? So if we can, I know I told them to go ahead to the website and or phone District Hall, but if there's another avenue, so I'll let John say that, and other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, Councilor Smith.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I can't provide information for blue bags. Again, they were to be stopped being used to encase recyclables October 31st. If folks have blue bags left over, they can use them for garbage. They're opaque, and the collectors will see if anyone accidentally still is continuing to do it, and then they'll be counseled. But just use it for your garbage. The other thing with glass collection is we will shortly be establishing an in-town site receptacle for glass. I'm in the final throes of certifying a location for that would meet safety requirements, convenience requirements, and accessibility. So there would be two then thus far. It'd be one at the transfer station and one downtown, so to speak. We'll be getting information out to you and the public shortly.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Forlowski. Last Thursday, I attended the first in a series on substance use and addiction and the opioid crisis in our community. It was at the Blue Moose Coffee House, and they're doing a series. The next one is actually this Thursday night from 6 to 8. It was well attended, and each week there's a different theme. Topics include values and stigma and myths, harm reduction, community inclusion, what can you do, societal fragmentation, and pain management. It was so, as I said, it was well attended, and I can't go this Thursday, but I'll certainly attend the next one after that, which is January the 10th and January 24th. So it's at the Blue Moose at 6 p.m. on those nights. I also attended the Golden Ages AGM. I will not repeat everything that Councillor Stewart said, but what I did learn is we need to get better at how we communicate to our seniors. They talked about, well, I'm not on Facebook, I don't have a computer, I don't get the paper, I rely on my neighbor to tell me when there's changes, so I don't know if we get creative. We talked about putting flyers in their mail. Well, if it's not the right color, I throw it out. So we do need to get creative, and I said I would have a look at it for them, and when we get together for another, maybe a committee of the whole, like you suggested, and talk about the whole recycling program and how it rolls out, and we get to organics and all the other phases, they're going to need some help to understand the program. I went to the Rec Commission meeting, and yes, the hockey got approved, which was good. Also, the remodel of the mezzanine got approved to go ahead out to RFP. Upstairs in the old part that it's going to be remodeled, the flooring, the walls, the bathrooms. It's a really good plan. And,
After the hockey tournament, right? It's not going to be under construction.
After the ice comes out. Yeah, they'll start. I also attended the Fire Department Service Awards, and it was a fun evening, wasn't it, Councillor Stewart? I'd like to recognize just 3 of the awards. I will skip one. Chief DeSorcy received his 30-year bar for service. Ian Williams, 35, and Fred Robinson, 50 years of service to the community for volunteer firefighting. They have a great group of guys and gals there, and a really close-knit group, and they do like to party. Yeah, they're great. Just a reminder for tomorrow, there's a crime prevention open house between 11 and 3. It's in another organization in town. Well, I hate to use the term, they're aging out, but there's a lot of seniors that are still operating and driving at night and doing the block program and the community patrols, and they're looking for some new members to help them. A lot of the seniors don't like to drive at night anymore. So open house tomorrow between 11 and 3 at the Crime Prevention Office, which is part of the post office for those in town that don't know where that is. Just a reminder to council, my last item, that we do have the Hope Standard council briefs available for articles, so if there's something that you're passionate about or you want to clarify for the public, by all means, work with Mrs. Bellingham or Mr. Forlowski, and we'll get those articles in the paper for you. That's the end of my report tonight. Excuse me, we're going to move on to permits and bylaws. First item is the 2018-2022 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw, that the District of Hope 2018-2022 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1441, 2018 be adopted this 26th day of November 2018. So moved. Moved by Councillor Smith, second by the other Councillor Smith. I know. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The next item is a report dated November 26, 2018 from the Director of Community Development, redevelopment permit, development variance permit 950 Old Hope Princeton Way. excuse me, resolution number 1. Do you want me to turn this over to you first, Mr. Fortalowski, or are we going to continue to read the resolution first?
It's your option, Your Worship.
I'll read the 2 resolutions and then I'll turn it over to you.
One at a time.
One at a time? All right. That's good. My voice is going to go anyway. Resolution number 1, that a rail and highway service corridor development permit be prepared for the property legally described as that part of District Lot 80 lying south of the southern limit of the Hope Princeton Highway as shown on Plan H94 and west of the west boundary of Section 11, Township 5, Range 26, west of the 6th Meridian, Yale Division, Yale District Accept Plan 39120, PID 014-767-945, 950 Old Hope Princeton Way, to enable the owner-developer to proceed with the development of a hotel, restaurant, conference center, and further that the Director of Community Development be authorized to approve minor changes to the development permit, and further that for purposes of the development permit validity period, the conditions of the development permit shall expire on November 26, 2020, and further that for purposes of any associated building permit, that the substantially start of any construction shall mean the completion of any foundation for any of the proposed structures, and further that the site preparation and tree removal area be restricted to the development of a hotel, restaurant, and conference center only, and not the overall site. And further, that the Director of Community Development be authorized to endorse the development permit and associated documents. Mr. Fortalowski, please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this report speaks to what could be a very substantial economic benefit to the community as far as development goes. And as you, Your Worship, had mentioned, it relates to a hotel, restaurant, conference center, and you can't tell by the PID, but it's basically at the east end of Old Hope Princeton Way on the south side of the road. I will surely pass this off to my colleague, Mr. Gill, but I'd also like to state that Mr. Hasha and his colleagues are here, and I believe they'll entertain any questions you may direct at them. You'll entertain those, will you, Mike? Yeah, okay, you're good to go. So I'd like to pass it on to Mr. Gill.
Your Worship, through you, the developer would like to reinitiate the project to develop a hotel, restaurant, conference center on the property in efforts to manage expectations. The drawings presented indicate the corporate franchise Best Western. However, there is a possibility the franchise could change as the project progresses. The developer has an overall development plan for the site. However, it is important to note that this application is specific to the development currently being proposed and should not be construed as an application for the developer's overall development plan for the entire site.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Council, any questions before we put a motion forward? Or we should do that first? All right. Looking for a motion forward, sure. Okay, for discussion, Councilor Medlock and Councilor Erickson. Discussion?
No, I'll just have,
You, go ahead.
we've been looking at this for the last 4 years that I know, right? Is this the same project?
Your Worship, through you, it's a variation of what was previously approved by council. It's changed.
I guess I'll ask the question about the voluntary contribution, because you did a good job of reporting on that. So, this, which you brought up here again, is what was discussed at the last time, just over 2 years ago. Is the developer willing to do the exact same voluntary contribution that you mentioned of this?
Your Worship, through you, as the previous application, it was, well, the former application, it was approved under that, and since this is now considered a new application, and since this is a new council, we wanted to make sure that those conditions are still outlined for this new application, and if council has any sort of discussion or any sort of questions to ask the developer, it would be appropriate at this point in time.
you have intent to have similar voluntary contributions as per the last application?
Yeah, they haven't changed.
Are these type of things registered or not? It cannot be, I suppose.
Yeah, they need to be repeated in minutes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, yeah, the previous, during the previous application, it was sort of a three-part contribution where $75,000 was paid as securities before any civil works performed, and then another $75,000 paid prior to the issuance of a building permit. So that totals $150,000. Those monies could be used to demolish any works at the reinstate land, and then prior to issuance of final occupancy was $100,000. So that would be a total of $250,000 that would have been put into a reserve for fire protection, specifically with the intent to provide protection towards the investment, the developer's investment. So I think is quite admirable, and I think that's a good thing to do. So what process needs to take place in order to establish some sort of formal agreement there?
Your worship, through you, typically a covenant can be registered against the property title. In this case, it'd be voluntary from the developer himself. He's already provided us with a bond already of $75,000 in order to initiate the project. So that demonstrates to us that he's willing to work with us.
Okay.
Your worship, realistically as well, we'll ink out an actual agreement, and we hold all the levers, quite frankly, because if we don't approve occupancy, et cetera, the development can't move forward. So I think we see eye to eye on that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Any other further questions? We have a motion on the floor for the first resolution. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Carried. Resolution number 2. The council approved the preparation of a development variance permit to vary the highway commercial C2 maximum building height provision for a principal building or structure in zoning bylaw 1324-2012 from 15 meters, 49.5 feet to 18.6 meters, 61 feet in order to construct a hotel, restaurant, and conference center on the property legally described as that part of District Law 80 lying south of the southern limit of the Hope Princeton Highway as shown on Plan H94 and west of the west boundary of Section 11, Township 5, Range 26, west of the 6th Meridian, Yale Division, Yale District Accept Plan 39120 PID 014-767-945, 950 Old Hope Princeton Way. And further, that in accordance with the District of Hope Procedures Bylaw 1393, the Local Government Act, and the Community Charter authorize staff to issue a notice of intent to consider the approval of the development variance permit to the neighboring property owners, including the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure.
I'll move the resolution.
Thank you.
As read.
As read. Thank you, Councilor Medlock. Second to Councilor Tron. Any discussion? Quick question, Smith.
Just because that property's a large chunk of property and there's a couple other, will the distance be pushed out a little bit further for the notice to the community?
So the way that your worship, it works, it's basically property boundaries is what we use for the notification.
Yes, it's just the neighbor properties off against that. Okay.
Yes, and it's 30 meters in the bylaw. We usually use 15 meters as a sort of rule of thumb.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Stewart.
I just had a clarifying question. So when I was reading the document, it said that as per resolution number 2, the tree removal could not take place until approval was given from the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure. I read that correctly? So, we, by passing this resolution, we guarantee that those trees will remain until such time as it's been approved. That's what's happening? Okay.
Your worship, yes, that is correct. I know the ministry has their concern, so we just wanted to make sure that if we move through, there's sort of a consolidated effort that everybody's on board at the same time.
Your Worship, we also have a tree removal bylaw that we apply to developments as well. So they'll be consulting with the Director of Operations as they go through the process if approved.
Thank you, Councillor Erickson, then Councillor Smith, and then Councillor Medlock, please.
So, I just have a problem with this height, 61 feet. How about our fire department? Are we able to deal with all of the issues of raising height again? Because we don't have a fire truck that's capable of reaching that high, or what's, what are we gonna do with that?
Your Worship, we have no concerns from a firefighting point of view. Again, with our pumping equipment, we believe we can service that. We don't need the quote-unquote ladder truck, which enables basically water to come down from a higher level. So our fire chief has not given any warning as far as this development are concerned.
One other question.
Yes.
Will it be fire sprinkler for this building at this height?
Yes.
It's a code question? Yes.
Then we're okay.
Yes.
And just a reminder as well, communities like Harrison Hot Springs, they have a 7-story hotel built to code with sprinklers. You don't need a ladder truck.
Okay, I just don't want to have to go through and buy a big fire truck.
Councillor Smith,
No, I'm sorry, that's the same question.
you got the answer you wanted?
I do.
Or you heard it? Yeah. Councillor Medlock.
No, okay. All right. My question is about the average height calculation that triggered the need for this variance. So in the pictures that we have of the building, there's, I guess, 5 stories on one side of the building, 4 on the other, with 2 lobbies. So when you're calculating it, what do you use as that calculation when it was the lower level with the 5 stories? Is that why this is being triggered? Not if it was if it was a 4-story building, would it be a need for a variance? There's a similar question.
Your Worship, through you, basically in the report as I outlined, we use the definition of building height. It means the vertical distance from the average finished grade. Majority of the finished grade of this building is on the lower portion and not on the
Showing the 5 stories? Okay.
From the 4-story entrance point. It's more on the 5-story portion.
Okay.
And that's what we sort of calculated. We went with the conservative number because there's the fact that some franchises like to have 9-foot ceilings within their buildings, and then sometimes the building material may change dependent upon budget. And so it can go to from a stick frame built or to a basically a modular structure. So this is why we did it. We've also took into fact consideration that this thing could change.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any seconds, questions and answered? Thank you. Call the motion, or the call the question, I guess. Or none, I guess. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to the next report dated November 26 from the Director of Community Development, read the Rail and Highway Service Corridor Development Permit, 63170 Flood Hope Road, Mardina Construction. The Rail and Highway Service Corridor Form and Character Development Permit for the property legally described as Lot B, Section 6, TWP 5, RGE 26, YDYD, W6M Plan KAP 81163, PID 026-771-292, 63170 Floodholt Road, be prepared to support a precast concrete manufacturing and storage facility. Further, that the Director of Community Development be authorized to approve minor changes to the Rail and Highway Service Corridor Form and Character Development Permit. And further, that for purposes of the development permit validity period, the conditions of the development permit shall expire on November the 26th, 2020. And further, that for purposes of Section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start of any construction shall mean the completion of the approved foundation for the proposed precast concrete manufacturing facility as certified safe by a qualified professional. And further, that the Director of Community Development be authorized to endorse the development permit, covenant, and any associated documents. So I'm sorry, I missed that on Councillor Erickson. Second?
Second.
Councillor Smith. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much for those reports. Excuse me, a motion to receive the correspondence. Councilor Smith, Councilor Stewart, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. There's no other pertinent business. This time I'll call for questions from the public for items relevant to the agenda. All right, there's no one looking for some answers tonight. We'll see you all at the next meeting, December the 10th at 7 p.m. We get to call Councilor Chambers right here. Motion to adjourn.